It's hard to put into words how I feel after rolling credits on 1348 Ex Voto, a game very clearly inspired by two of my favorite games, A Plague Tale and Hellblade, but doesn't quite hit the heights of its inspirations. Despite this, I think there are plenty of positives and critiques to take away from said Leo Games' first outing. What's up, everyone? My name is Kevin, and welcome back to Save the Game Media. In today's video, we're going to be talking all about 1348 Ex Voto, and I'll let you know whether the review scores actually tell the whole story or if the critics got it wrong. If you're into new game reviews, gaming podcasts, or just gaming content in general, please consider subscribing to the channel. Before we begin, I would like to give a quick shout out and thank you to said Leo Games, Dear Villagers, and Guillotine PR for providing a code for this review.
A fine display. Feat worthy of Lancelot himself, straight from one of your tales.
Why do you insist we come here when all you do is mock?
We are here to distract you from your sorrows. Besides, nightly practice balances your humors, Aeta. Mock play mine.
The game puts you into the role of Aida, a wannabe knight from an unknown town in medieval times. The game starts with you practicing your swordplay in the forest alongside your friend Bianca. Aida dreams of becoming a real knight, protecting people, while Bianca wants a better life than her current circumstances as a peasant. While there is never any actual romantic displays of affection between these two, their feelings for one another are very heavily implied through dialogue and overt flirting. The relationship between these two is actually very vital for the story, and the characters are brought to life expertly by newcomer Albie Baldwin and voice acting royalty at this point, Jennifer English. The conflict kicks off right away. Some time has passed, and Bianca has gone back to town, but Aida decides it's time to end her training. Well, on her way back, she notices her town is going up in flames and under attack. Rushing back, she attempts to save anyone she can as she looks for her friend and love interest, only to discover the invading forces have kidnapped her. Aida sets off on a journey to not only save Bianca, but to become a true knight along the way.
Those that I have failed today, may I one day be worthy of your forgiveness. Bianca, you are all that is left to me. I shall save you. This, I vow.
So, as the game suggests, it does take place during 1348, the 14th century in Italy, and I'm actually a sucker for medieval aesthetics. The castles, the wide open pastures, the architecture of the time period gives off the perfect vibes, and I think they did a really good job nailing that in this game. I will say that the story does feel a bit off, feels a bit underdeveloped, almost rushed. The game is very short, coming in at roughly 5 hours to roll credits, and it feels like the last few chapters, in which you do experience a time jump, come out of nowhere. The few side characters in the game are forgettable, so when they pop back up, it's confusing how we got to where we did. I do think there is a good story here. Aida's journey and the conclusion are compelling, but a little underbaked. The gameplay loop of 1348 Ex Voto is very linear. You're not going to find an open world of side quests, extensive areas to explore, or NPCs to talk to here. This is a very solo first experience. Most of the game will see you walking along a very linear path, ducking or going over obstacles to get to the next area. The game is divided into these chapters. Each chapter, you will have a handful of enemies you'll have to fight, and there are about 3 bosses throughout the game, so you actually aren't in combat all that much. Combat in this game is another area, unfortunately, where I feel like it's the start of something that could be good, but it didn't quite get developed enough. In enemy encounters, the enemies will come at you basically one at a time. Every enemy will have a guard bar that you're required to break through before you are able to actually damage them. This is done by hitting the attack button, and then at the time your strike makes contact with the enemy, hitting it again. A very strange system. This counts as a perfect attack. When enemies attack you, your options are to either guard, which is done by, in my case, holding the left trigger, or dodge with the right bumper. Some attacks actually must be dodged, and these are indicated by a little flash when the enemy queues up their attack. Ida has two stances available to her, one handed and two handed styles. One handed attacks are slower but more powerful, while two handed are quicker and less powerful. It's a very simple concept to understand, but combat genuinely starts off very frustrating and confusing. Some enemies, such as the spear enemies, can require you to use the two handed style to break their guard, but this is never explained. So you'll be swinging along the one handed style and not understanding why they're just reflecting your attacks over and over again. The game doesn't have any indication that you have to switch your stance here. Enemies often feel quicker than you are at the start of the game, especially the first boss fight, which was incredibly frustrating to deal with. However, combat is something that improves as you go on because you're able to upgrade it. Throughout each level, you'll be able to collect paper. You use paper to upgrade the 4 skill trees available. Each skill tree has 3 items in each bracket. This allows you to upgrade your health, guard bar, add more swings to your style attacks, but also unlocks moves like Perfect Parry and Perfect Strike. These two moves will fundamentally make combat so much easier. Perfect Parry is performed by hitting the guard and dodge at the same time. This does guard damage to the enemy, but essentially, you can just hold down the guard button, and then when the enemy attacks you, all you have to do is hit the dodge button, and it will perform the Perfect Parry, meaning you rarely have to swing to take off the guard bars anymore. And when you do, you have your first strike always being a perfect attack, which goes a long way to help you break through enemies. Apart from that, the combat doesn't really evolve much. You're still going to see the same animations you've been seeing the entire game, but it does feel better and allow you to get through combat encounters quicker. I think these upgrades really should have been starting moves because then combat wouldn't have felt so much like a slog at the beginning. It wouldn't have been as confusing. It really is a strange choice to lock these behind a skill tree until later in the game. When not in combat, you'll occasionally have to solve a puzzle, and I use that term very loosely. The majority of the time, if you see a little side path, you'll just have to move a box or a cart, and then you have access to it. Maybe do some platforming here and there, but it is very simple. These side areas are where you'll find food you can use to heal or collectibles that will have a little lore attached to them, usually referencing the mythology of the time or some saint that go on a necklace you're making for Bianca, your ex voto, which is where the game gets its name from. These serve no real gameplay purpose, but in these areas, you will also be able to find upgrades for your sword, which are important. You'll find better hilts, blades, handles, and more that you'll be able to switch in and out, maximizing your potential. You can have hilts that are better for two-handed styles, blades that are better for one-handed styles. They'll upgrade certain aspects of the combat, such as regaining your guard bar faster, a larger parry window, improved strikes depending on your style. Apart from this, you'll be able to find and equip random trinkets like a dragon's claw or a chess piece, which do in fact have gameplay effects, such as doubling your healing or insta killing enemies once their guard is broken if you use a charge attack. These are really vital. Combining these in the correct way go a long way to make the combat not only easier, but you can survive longer and you can get through combat encounters much quicker. While the game has some issues, I was actually engaged enough with the story, and I don't mind linear games, so I was having a good enough time playing it, despite how bare bones the game really is. However, it is let down by the technical state it launched in. The game visually reminds me of a PlayStation 3 game, and I understand this is an indie developer, so I'm not going to hold that much against it. But the character models, especially the facial expressions, are quite bad. They're very uncanny valley. There's some things in here that really needed more tweaking, more improvement. It's just not where it needs to be for a game releasing in 2026. I do think the character models are really bad, especially during cutscenes, but they're not as bad when you're in the gameplay. Like Ida looks so much better in gameplay than she does in a cutscene. It's very strange. There are also quite a few bugs throughout the game. Prompts to interact with objects fail to appear, leading to wandering around confused. Like, I thought this was what I was supposed to use, but I'm not getting the interact button here, so I don't know what to do now. Ida refusing to grab ledges when you jump, or getting caught in a climbing animation, usually on a piece of rubble that you're not even trying to jump onto, you're just trying to walk. It's a very frustrating experience and not uncommon. You'll also find certain areas that seem to be more CPU intensive, hurting the frame rate. While most of the time I was able to have above 60 FPS, it would not be unusual to see it hovering just above 70, other areas near 120. It wasn't a stable frame rate. One of the most consistent issues, however, is with the audio, whether it be Ida repeating the same lines over and over and over again. Especially if you backtrack in a certain area and then you go back, it's like the trigger was moving to the area, but they don't understand that you already went through it. So she'll just repeat it over and over again. I actually tested this out and found it consistently happening. You'll also find two audio tracks will play over the top of each other, and even subtitles will get superimposed on top of them, meaning I couldn't read what they were saying. Obviously, I can listen to it, but it is frustrating to see a bunch of words jumbled on the screen. None of this makes the game unplayable, but it is a noticeable lack of polish. So, overall, I enjoyed my time with 1348 Ex Voto despite all of its faults and despite my criticisms. I recognize it's a very flawed game. The combat, the story, everything comes across as a game that actually is on the road to something good, but needs a lot more time in the oven. If given more time and probably more budget, there is a good game here. But unfortunately, it wasn't realized in Leo's debut effort. I still don't personally align with the 4 and 5s I'm seeing from other game reviewers. If I gave it a score, it would probably be more like a 6. It's sad to see certain bad actors and culture warriors attacking this game simply due to their bigotry or because they aren't sexually attracted to the main character, but we don't engage with that nonsense here. We actually play games and we judge them by what is in the game and how we experienced it. So the truth is, while I did have a good enough time with it, I really can't recommend the game as it stands. I think if the team patches it and improves on some aspects that I have been critical of here, then maybe you could pick it up on a sale, but that is not where it stands today. So let me know your thoughts down below if you've checked the game out, if you're planning to, or if you're not planning to. I would love to know why. Until next time, I have been Kevin for Save the Media. See ya.